What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lunchtable Sports Podcast. Today, I've got my top 10 wide receivers in the NFL draft, scouting report breakdown of what I think are the 10 best receivers in the NFL draft, some of their pro comps. Sorry, Aiden couldn't be in the video. He's got hockey. He's kind of busy right now. He will be in a lot more of the future videos, but without further ado, let's get into it. My honorable mentions kind of slash just miss were considered. All four of these guys were studied their film, had breakdowns ready for all of them, but in the end, they just barely missed the cut. They got A.T. Perry, Jaden Reed, Michael Wilson, Parker Washington. A.T. Perry's a guy I just want to talk about really quick. He's a very smart wide receiver. Just the way he plays the game, the way he talks about the game off the field. Very smart receiver. This was a guy who, it was really hard leaving him out. Very dominant height, weight, speed kind of guy. But yeah, I think he's definitely got to watch out for in this upcoming draft. But let's get to number 10. Number 10 here, I got Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims, big time deep threat. Averaged 20 yards per catch at Oklahoma. That's crazy. And over 1,000 yards. He's a big play threat from anywhere in the field. You know, you can line up on the slot, line him up on the outside. He will make plays everywhere. He's great at adjusting to the play. I've seen this a lot of times where, it's not the best thrown ball, or he's got to step on a guy and the ball's, a little outside. He just adjusts to the play anywhere on the field. Maybe a broken play. He's coming back to that ball. I think that's a very good skill to have in the NFL, and that just builds a relationship with your quarterback. And Marvin Mims has that ability. He's got strong hands, and he's got, there's times where he's leaping over guys to make catches at 5'11" and 183, which you don't see a whole lot. That definitely helps the draft stock. I don't see so much too many negatives in his game. Would like to see more sharp routes. I feel like he sometimes uses his speed and elusiveness to get around guys, whereas sometimes, especially on his slant routes, when watching, you like to see a little more sharp and cut to his game. He just needs to continue to get stronger with a lot of these guys I'm going to be talking about. It's very smaller, kind of skinnier receiver class. So you want to see him start to bulk up. But a guy I see in comparison to him is Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett's just made a living in the NFL for making, Russell Wilson, Geno Smith, their just jobs easier as quarterbacks. He's getting open all the time. He's a deep threat from anywhere in the field. So I definitely think that's a good kind of pro comparison for Marvin Mims. My wide receiver 9 in the NFL draft is Cedric Tillman from Tennessee. You see the stats there: 37 catches for 17 yards and 3 touchdowns. He's a very big receiver. He plays bigger even than I feel like 6'3", 213. He went over 1,000 yards, and the year prior he struggled with injuries. This past year, he's a very physical receiver. He has an amazing catch radius. He's the type of receiver where you're just going to throw the ball up to him and let him cook. He's got amazing catch radius, which in turn makes him a mismatch anywhere on the field. But some of the negatives I saw from his game film was he lacks some explosiveness. There's times where I see him running routes where he looks a little clunky. He's not going to be that barn burner over the top. He does have a little finesse to his game when I'm watching him, but he's more of that physical guy. He even dominates. He establishes himself on the perimeter to the point where there's sometimes cornerbacks who don't want to mess with him. I've seen that on film when they start to back off him a little bit too much because they know what he's capable of. And to have just that wide receiver who implements that kind of guy where you can throw it up on the field in double coverage is extremely valuable. He reminds me a lot of Kenny Galladay with the Lions. Kenny Galladay, reliable target, reliable hands. You can throw it up to him, and he's going to come down with it. So that element in the game today is kind of losing steam a little bit with a lot of these RPO systems, a lot of these speed wide receivers, shorter wide receivers. But Cedric Tillman's a name definitely to know on draft night. Wide receiver 8 is Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo has been by far one of the biggest risers of this draft process. He's always kind of been that guy for me that I knew his raw ability. He never really got that recognition, and finally he started to gain it, and I'm glad he did. He's a bigger receiver. He's 6'2", 220. A great blend of size and playmaking ability. He's kind of shaped of that, almost like It's like a running back, like a big running back but he's playing wide receiver. So he's very elusive, very strong receiver, a very smart route runner. He's always paying attention on the field. Excellent ball tracking during deep throws. I mean, one of my favorite highlights of him, it is I forgot who they're playing, but he just leaps over the defender, catches it with his offhand, one-handed, and he just grabs it. He just got that kind of determination of relentlessness as a receiver. And you absolutely love to see that. You need a receiver who's never going to give up. You don't want a lazy receiver. You want a guy who's going to put in 110% effort every single play. That's exactly the kind of receiver Jonathan Mingo is. Some of his cons, he never truly broke out. He was never that dominant type guy. Almost like DK Metcalf. In no way I'm comparing him to DK Metcalf, but kind of like DK Metcalf at Ole Miss, never really broke out, but those physical tools were always there. His footwork could be improved upon a little bit in routes. A little more finesse could be added to his game. Overall, my pro comp is Treylon Burks from Arkansas. I thought very highly of Treylon Burks in last draft cycle. And whereas he never really truly broke out his rookie year, I do anticipate a lot more love for him going forward, especially that wide receiver one for Tennessee, which is looking like he will be. And Mingo is just a guy who I probably would view him as like a late second to early third round kind of receiver, where teams are really going to want to take a gamble on those physical tools of his. But yeah, Jonathan Mingo. Wide receiver 7 for me is Tank Dell, wide receiver from Houston. Now, Tank Dell's probably one of the most proven statistical leaders of this wide receiver draft class. 109 receptions for 4,000 yards and 17 touchdowns is just amazing. But the only con on him is he's 5'8", 165. So don't let that size fool you. He is a dominant receiver. Dominant. He's going to beat you off the line every single freaking time. He is so fun to watch. He's one of my favorite receivers to watch in this draft. He has lightning quick feet. The way he moves his feet is unbelievable. Best release in the draft. He has guys literally guessing. They don't know where he's at. They're just lunging, hoping they can grab him. He's an extremely shifty route runner. He can put his weight on one side of his body and burst off it in matters of seconds. He separates at all 3 levels, intermediate, deep, and mid. But yeah, really dominant guy. Only knocking him is his size. He absolutely needs to add muscle if he wants to play in the NFL. But he just dropped 21 drop passes over the last 2 seasons, which he definitely needs to clean up. And he sometimes dances too much where he wants to make that guy slip and fall, but all he really has is a step on him, which is perfectly fine. My pro comp for him is Darnell Mooney. We've seen Mooney be able to have that finesse in his game, have that speed factor in his game, while also being a little bit of a shorter and lighter receiver. I do think teams are going to regret passing on Tank Dell, and I can see why they would, light, short. But when you watch that film, and even at the Senior Bowl, in my opinion, he was the most dominant receiver of the Senior Bowl. Him and Jaden Reed, he was constantly getting open, constantly torching guys. So Tank Dell is one of my guys in the draft, and a guy everyone else should definitely pay attention to in the league to make some noise. My wide receiver 6 years, Josh Downs. Josh Downs is your ideal slot receiver. He's just a slot machine. As you see here, 94 receptions for 1,029 yards and 11 touchdowns. Wasn't even his best year in college. He was better the year before that. Forgot his exact numbers. I think it was around 1,200 yards receiving, something like that. But he's a change of tempo and routes, leaves defenders in dust. He has the ability to just snap in his routes where he's going to go up and jog at you. You're like, what's this guy doing? And then boom, he just bursts across the field. He's very sharp route running. He's able to sink his hips, really get down there. He's twitchy and short to mid distance routes. He's going one way and then boom, he's going to cut it back the other way. He's got, below average build, which, yeah, you may raise some concerns, but just his ability to dominate the slot. Physical corner may cause some problems on him. There's times where if he's not able to dance around you, get his hands on you, he sometimes loses him in the route. Slot only type of receiver, but very dominant in the slot. My pro comp for him is Hunter Renfrow. Renfrow kind of had a down year this past year, but in years prior, he's been an absolute beast of the slot. Josh Downs, I think he's becoming a little underrated in this draft class. This is a draft really dominated by a lot of slot receivers, which may cause him to fall a little bit. But I do think Josh Downs is going to go higher than people anticipate in the second round, just because of his twitchiness, athleticism. He has a veteran mind when playing the game. He knows how to get open. Teams love that. So I'm a big Josh Downs fan. My wide receiver 5 in the draft is Jalin Hyatt. This man is a speed demon. And again, I'm gonna say this for every receiver. He is pretty light. 176 at 6 foot is gonna cause some concerns. But he was dominant in the NFL, Blitnikoff Award winner. He's a glider when he runs, a glider. He looks like he's floating over that turf, just running while he's hovering over the lawn. And if he gets one step on the DB, it's over. As a DB, you cannot bite on this man. If you bite on this man, it's done. Hunting hookers to throw him up the ball, touchdown. And he had one of the most fun films to watch against Alabama. It was boom, over the top of the DB, touchdown. Boom, over the top of the DB, touchdown. And Jalin Hyatt, teams are gonna like that from him. The only he's not afraid to throw blocks in the run game. He finds seams in zone very well. He kind of views the field. Whenever stood out to me on film when there's safety and cornerback, he would like to go in and then find that seam, which, doesn't always work for some guys, but he uses that speed and just gets open. So zone coverage on him is very risky. And 86% of snaps came in slot, which you wouldn't like to see so much for a guy at 6 foot. But he was able to dominate there. He rarely saw press man coverage, which kind of scares me a little bit. Because that's a lot of NFL teams run press man, a lot of them. And he's very skinny and light receiver, which I touched on earlier. My pro comp for him is, it's a little controversial nowadays, but Henry Ruggs. Henry Ruggs is such that dominant kind of speed demon coming into the NFL. Never really clicked for him in the NFL, but hopefully it does for Jalin Hyatt. He's definitely going to have to get some getting used to the NFL, especially with his height and weight, and not seeing too many NFL heavy defenses, especially in that kind of lighter defense of an SEC. But I do think Jalin Hyatt will go. Teams will love his speed ability, and he'll get drafted highly because of that. All right, coming here in my top 4, I got Jordan Addison, wide receiver USC. Jordan Addison is one of the biggest names in this draft, former Blitnikoff Award winner. He just oozes athleticism while running routes. He's so athletic. His routes just look so clean. He's just a smooth route runner. His footwork is top tier as well as being fundamentally sound. He doesn't let his athleticism and speed rush him in and out of his routes. He takes his time. He has the ability to make a play from anywhere, slot, outside, you name it. Now, there was a fall off from his junior to senior year, and that's just, I feel like, kind of the offense he was in. He struggled with some injuries, but there's a lot of other receivers around him, whereas Pitt, he was the guy, the only guy, Kenny Pickett's guy. Now, weight is a concern. Did not test well expected, but that didn't really cause any concerns in my rankings. My pro comp for him is Chris Olave. Chris Olave is just that wide receiver 2, ideal wide receiver 2, even wide receiver 1 at some points, dripping with athleticism, same as Jordan Addison. So I think definitely Jordan Addison's going to make some noise, and he could be potentially a first-round pick. Well, I do have a second-round grade on him. I think he could be a first-round pick. My next up is my wide receiver 3 is Quentin Johnston, who is the last of my second-round grade receivers. Now, this guy is a very, very interesting prospect. 6'3", 208. He's very athletic for his size. Very athletic. He's a very raw receiver, I feel like. He plays very fast. He plays a fast game for his size. You would like to see a little more consistency from him, and there are some drop issues. Drop issues do kind of worry me a lot. He's awkward when he's high pointing the football. He kind of does this thing where he jumps up and pins it on his chest, which that's just not going to fly in the NFL. He has that catch radius. He needs to use it. But other than that, when he was clicking, Against Michigan, he looked like the best receiver in the country. I remember leaving that game. I was there. Great time, and unfortunately my Wolverines couldn't pull it off. But when it's in the game, I left that game saying, yeah, he's best receiver in the draft. Obviously, I had to watch some film on him. And I think if Quentin Johnston goes to the right team, a team that believes in him, a team that's going to develop him, he has a chance to do something special. But overall, I think my pro comp for him is Corey Davis. Same exact way as Corey Davis. Corey Davis is a guy people thought was going to be a little more dominant in the NFL. He actually was fine career, but it never really clicked for him. But yeah, Quentin Johnston, I feel like he's going to be hit or miss guy. Next, into my first round graded receivers, my wide receiver 2 is Jaxon Smith-Njigba. I put up his 2022 or 2021 stats up there. 95 receptions, 1,600 yards, 9 touchdowns. Dog. He's a straight dog. I think if there's one word to describe this man, it's a dog. He's 6'1", 200 pounds, great at finding holes and soft spots at coverage. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but he's great at finding holes, soft spots, and coverage, just like Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown makes a living off of that. He just finds that ability to slip through linebackers unnoticed, and that's exactly what Njigba does. He's a very smooth route runner in and out of his breaks, slot machine, although I think he will have some flexibility to play on the outside of the NFL. That rack ability, once you get the ball in his hands, he has a special ability to do something with that ball. He's tough. Maybe you're not calling him tough after the senior year, but man, his junior year or sophomore year, sorry, he was tough, especially in that Michigan game. He kept fighting and fighting and fighting. He wanted to will his team to victory. Great example of him actually willing his team to victory is Utah, where it seemed like he was Mr. Everything on that field. Now, some of his negatives are coming off an injury, major production only in one season. I wouldn't let that fool me. He's a first-round receiver, bona fide stud. Don't let the injuries concern you. Take a chance on him. If I was talking to an NFL GM, it'd be take a chance on this man. I think he has potential to do something special in the NFL. I want receiver 1, Zay Flowers. I cannot speak enough on Zay Flowers. I think he's criminally underrated. He's a top 15 player in the draft for me. 70 receptions for 1,077 yards, 12 touchdowns. If this man was playing at Alabama, or Georgia, USC, Notre Dame, even Michigan, some of those bigger market teams, he would be talked about so much. But no, he's at Boston College. Some of his build, 5'9", 182. You're like, yeah, like what do you see in him? He's got that 0 to 100 type speed and route running, which is so rare nowadays for a receiver. And you either get that all-out speed or kind of that finesse, but he has everything. He's got 0 to 100 type speed and route running. He's going to cut in his breaks at 70%, and he's going to burst out at 100. He's a salesman. He will convince you he's going one way, totally convince you. Salesman, nice doing business with you, and boom, he's busting off the other way. Amazing ball skills and instincts. Just his ability to locate the ball is unfathomable sometimes. There's times where double coverage, ball's in the air. He just finds the only spot where the ball's going to put his hands. And he's extremely shifty. Like you can't keep sight of him sometimes. Height is a concern, short arms. All right, my pro comp is Antonio Brown-esque. In no way am I straight up saying he will have an Antonio Brown career, but there's times where he has an Antonio Brown impact on the field. I saw a kind of an interview with his agent, and his agent made the same kind of comparison. He said he's Antonio Brown, but you don't have to worry about all the issues off the field. In a sense, he's kind of right. I mean, Zay Flowers is a very humble dude. He didn't even get a Senior Bowl invite. He went to the Shrine Bowl, which is straight up disrespectful. But Zay Flowers, if there's one thing I can say after leaving this podcast is you need to watch some Zay Flowers tape or even just watch his highlights. He will sell you. But yeah, my receiver 1 is Zay Flowers. So that kind of wraps up my top 10 wide receivers in the NFL draft. I hope you enjoyed. Currently filming this. We got a week until the NFL draft. Super stoked. I got some AP testing coming up in about a week, but after that, I'll be able to pump out way more videos. We got a ton of special interviews coming up this summer. Super excited about that. Just stay tuned, like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and see you in the next episode.